Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to have you all on the Defiant podcast. For listeners, I have a really nice group of people in the Stoner Cats team, and I will let them all introduce themselves and tell us about their backgrounds. But for those who have been kind of living under a rock, I'm sure if you're a Defiant listener, you'll know about this project. But I'm really excited to hear about how it all started. This Stoner Cat project with like big names behind it: Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, Vitalik, Buterin, Jane Fonda, like star cast, and also NFT enabled, and made the Ethereum network crash. People were saying cats are always doing this to Ethereum. So hugely popular right from the get-go. And here we have the investors and makers of this awesome project. So super excited to have you all here.
Excited to be here.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so why don't we go around and with like introductions? So Lisa, do you want to start? Tell us kind of your background, how you got into crypto, and your involvement with Stoner Cats.
My name is Lisa Sturbakov, and I'm Mila's producing partner. So I'm on this team that's here on the very Hollywood side of things. So I got involved in this because we had a need, we had a wonderful project that we wanted to get out into the world, and we felt like this was the best way to do it. So I got into crypto from a really personal artistic need with my our incredible creators, and then these people came on to make this work.
Perfect. Morgan?
I'm Morgan Beller. Thank you for having us today. I work at a firm called NFX, which is an early stage venture fund. And we can get into kind of the origin of the story, but I was in the right place at the right time when Lisa and Mila decided to experiment with different ways to fund this show, Stoner Cats. And I feel lucky to be part of the team.
Awesome. Maria?
Hi, I'm Maria Bajwa. I've been working on the venture side. I work for a venture fund called Sound Ventures with Ashton, and I've been covering crypto for us for the last 4.5 years. I have a weekly crypto newsletter that goes out to a few hundred folks that like talks about everything that's happening in the space. And I'm just really excited about NFTs and how we can use it to change different industries, including entertainment.
Perfect. And then Jonathan?
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm Jonathan Howard. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Big Head, which partnered with these awesome people on the NFT side. And I've been an engineer, like sort of on growth teams, or a founder for probably the last 15 years.
Great. Okay. So now, Morgan, you mentioned kind of this founding story for Stoner Cats. Can you maybe dig into that and tell us the backstory of how this all happened?
Absolutely. I'm actually going to pass the mic to Lisa because Stoner Cats was in her head, heart, and inbox for years before any of us. So she can start. Yeah. So let's day zero.
Perfect.
Lisa.
Yeah, Mila and I met with Ash, Sarah, and Chris, the incredible creators, just a couple months before COVID really hit. And so we got to meet in person like human beings. And we just fell in love with the creative story. And we, really looked at the idea of taking it out in traditional Hollywood ways. So where we would shop it around town, do all of the things that we do on a traditional show. And what we found was that our options were not as exciting as we wanted them to be. And it felt like people were willing to pay a tiny bit of money to take a lot of the ownership. And for our creators, that just didn't seem acceptable. So as we were sitting kind of creatively thinking, looking at the offers on the table, and we went, there has to be a better way of doing this. And the creative had always been the idea of it being this series of really filled little shorts. And we were on a Zoom with our creators, and Mila yelled downstairs to Ashton and said, asked him to come up and said, what if we did this as an NFT? And he was like, yes, yes. And just by chance, Morgan happened to be at their house. And he was like, literally the best person in the world to talk to you about this is right here. The other best person to talk to in the world is on my team. So immediately put us in contact with Morgan and with Maria, and we were on our way.
Can you guys talk a little bit more about the concept? So, you had been kind of thinking about this concept and shopping it around kind of the usual venues, but people kind of weren't offering you great terms for it. So, like, what was it? What was it initially?
Well, the idea behind using NFTs was
wonderful.
essentially a way to. The idea behind using NFTs was initially a way to think about how we could reverse finance content. Right. So we know that we wanted to create this content, and in order to, rather than selling it to a studio, we thought that maybe we could actually use the fans and the community to actually sort of fund the content it is that they want to watch. And what the Stoner Cat NFTs get you is access to a community of other folks who are interested in new content creation models, and then also access to watch all of the content that we create, not just with Stoner Cats, but also with future properties that we want to make in this way. And so really the Genesis Stoner Cat NFTs have a ton of long-term value, we think, because we believe that this model can work and should work, because we believe that there's a world where storytellers need to be able to tell the stories that they want without the big studios sort of homogenizing their message or their vision. And we want a way for fans and audiences to be able to connect with that content directly. So we believe that there's a world that studios will need to exist and they'll continue making content their way, but we believe that there's a new avenue as well that's more decentralized, where content creators can actually create the content that they want, and then the fans can participate in some way.
So were NFTs always part of the project?
Well, and not until they. Go ahead, Lisa.
No, they really weren't. Our initial development of the project was really as a traditional adult animated project, and it was sort of elated. It was the idea of selling it as the NFT, and Maria, really, who is such an NFT huge expert, who really expanded on the possibility, and then intentionally bringing in Big Head, of what the possibility of what the NFTs look like. So the token NFT, the art, all of that element really got added on. And we were so incredibly lucky and blessed that we had an amazing artist who had already created these characters, had already drawn up character designs that had already, gotten deep into this world. And it seemed to mesh together really beautifully. And we learned, the Hollywood side, we learned a lot.
I was going to say, I think it's an important point that they did not start with, like, we want to do NFTs, because I think that is a lot of the perception, which is like every celebrity is like NFTs. That's something that I'm supposed to be doing now. And that was not the case. Like, they had this show, they had made this show, and the traditional funding routes were just not right for this content because it's drug content, or they didn't want to have to change anything because they feel they made something good. So they had a problem. And then, to Lisa's point, they were like looking for solutions to solve this problem, with NFTs being one of the proposed solutions. And even then, when Lisa mentioned that, like, I was first brought in, throughout the whole first conversation, I was like, does this actually need to be an NFT? Does this actually need to be an NFT? Like, we should keep checking ourselves, because I do think we see a lot of NFT projects that don't necessarily need to be NFTs. Like, they could have existed in pre-crypto, pre-NFT worlds. And just to highlight John for a second, like, he is starting this company, Big Head, which is helping to make magic happen in the NFT world. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, so you can put them in your mouth, but when we first, that sounded weird. Well, like, when we first reached out, I think that you guys were like, oh, like, Mari had been like reaching, I think they were like, oh, another celebrity trying to do NFTs, like, get in line.
Well, it sounded like that was part of why you chose us, because our first reaction was like, well, it doesn't make sense to just do a regular old NFT drop. Like, there has to be something there. That has to be like the things that we want to do at Big Head are things that have never been done before. Technically, are like unlocking something huge. Something has to be like the point we often talk about. An NFT project is going to be here as long as Ethereum is here, which means after we're dead, maybe like really, really long term, and it has to matter that much. And part of the reason that we signed on for this was when we brainstormed together and we got to this point of what became Stoner Cats, or what Stoner Cats became, which was the show, but also the production of it, and like lifetime membership in this sort of production company and everything they ever make, and decentralizing even some decision making and how far can we push that. There's just so much that's never been done before that's exciting. And I don't know what the latest number is. The couple of other people have jobs where they're looking at the macro numbers in the world, but I think it's like a $2 trillion industry for global entertainment. And Ethereum should have some big chunk of that if this works. That's incredibly exciting.
And I think it's important also. So we've seen a lot of projects that have come out and released NFTs as part of it, but a lot of that felt like merchandising rather than actual like participation or like a utility. And we thought that the idea of being able to unlock using the tokens like sort of like an access token to unlock content, not just today but in perpetuity, was different and exciting. So that's kind of why I went with that model.
So Maria, maybe we can take a step back and you can kind of walk us through exactly kind of what Stoner Cats is and does.
What the NFTs do?
Yeah. Like what's kind of the basic kind of story of the show? What do NFT owners get? Like what's the like the model going forward? Just like a broad overview.
Yeah, absolutely. So the show is about this elder woman, Miss Stoner, who is dealing with Alzheimer's, and when she uses cannabis as a mechanism to like help with that and alleviate her symptoms. And when she does that, she hotboxes her house, and when she hotboxes her house, the cats become sentient and they can talk, and they have fingers and toes, and they can run around. And the pilot episode really introduces the six characters, in the six cats in the show, and sets them up for sort of what's going to come in future episodes and in the first season. So the way that the NFTs actually work, so initially we released 10,420 NFTs. Each one is centered around one of the 7 characters in the show. So there's 20 Mrs. Stoners, 400 Lord Catsingtons, which is Vitalik's character, and then 2,000 each for the remaining characters. And what that NFT gets you is it gets you access to watch the content. So if you hold one of the Stoner Cat tokens, you can actually watch the content starting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And then when future episodes are released, your Stoner Cats token will also unlock those episodes. So you need to continue to hold a token in order to watch subsequent content that's being created. And so for Stoner Cats, and this is an animated short series, so the first episode is 5 minutes long. We're going to make probably about 4 to 5 more episodes for the first season. Each one is about 5 to 7 minutes long and sort of centers around one of the key characters in the show. And then the idea is that because these are the Genesis tokens, Genesis Stoner Cats tokens, any new content that we sort of create using this model, your Stoner Cat NFTs will get you access and to watch that content in perpetuity. And so Big Head and Orchard Farm Productions, which is a production company that created Stoner Cats, are going to create some sort of DAO at some point that allows the community to decide what content is created and participate in that process. So the intention is, we're doing Stoner Cats today, and we believe that this model can and should exist. And then we're going to continue to do it for other pieces of content that we have. Like Lisa likes to say that she's a drawer full of amazing content and amazing stories that should be told, but that studios, for whatever reason, don't want to make. And so we have access to a lot of amazing talent and creators that we can loop in and that we can help create shows with.
And the one thing I would add is that we should refer people to the Discord. We have a living document that is the roadmap of all the things on the way to that sort of, we'll call it like the DAO future. And there's a lot of steps on that direction, but all of those are perks and community involvement that also come with the NFTs.
Yeah, and I think in like a perfect world, Yeah, I think in a perfect world, as much as I have a wonderful drawer full of projects with amazing, tested, experienced creators, we love the idea of giving opportunities to new creators to be able to test run projects and see if they can do it, see if we can all do it. So the idea of being able to give a new voice a chance is very, very exciting for me.
And so will each new show have its own set of NFTs, or will this be kind of the key NFTs like forever to watch all of the shows?
Yeah, each new show likely will have NFTs, but the Soda Cat NFTs are special in that they get you access to watch all of the content that's going to be created in the future. Whereas future NFTs will likely be just for that, show or film or whatever that specific piece of content.
Okay, got it. So
one of the ideas that we think is really interesting is that you can kind of see a world where each individual person can sort of become their own decentralized studio, right? And you have all of these NFTs that give you access to watch variable content that you have participated in. And so you can essentially have like all of these NFT badges that get you access to watch the shows that you actually want to watch. And there's something really exciting about the ability of, trading them, right? If you're finished with a show and you want to give it to someone else, you can, and then they have access to watch all of that content. And it kind of creates this new economy almost around how we not just fund content, but watch content and we distribute it.
Oh, it's really interesting.
There's a DeFi angle there as well. I don't know if we want to get into that.
Yes.
There's so many. So I'm not a DeFi programmer and I'm not familiar with those contracts, but I have to imagine there is a way for basically the show's going to say, do you own this NFT? And there are ways to lease or fractionalize. There's like all kinds of money Legos that I'm really excited for the community to plug into and see what they do.
Is this like already being like happening? Like, do you know of any kind of teams working on something like that?
We're 13 hours in, so I don't know of any yet.
I mean, things move so fast in DeFi,
They do.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They really do. That's true. Yeah, I don't know if I've heard of any yet. But there's been some that I've caught the occasional chatter, so it'll be interesting to see what comes out of it.
So this is kind of like having it's like a different sort of streaming model, right? Like instead of like buying a Netflix subscription, you buy an NFT, and this gives you access to content, but it's more composable. Like instead of having to cancel your Netflix subscription, you can sell it in the secondary market, maybe even make money off of it. But because of how this thing is programmed, the producers also get a cut. So like you guys get basically like 2.5% of secondary market sales. So it's like everyone wins in this kind of NFT market. So that's really cool. One question I had was on the price. Like, it was priced at, like, the primary market was priced at 0.35 ETH. Is that right? So around like $800, which seems pretty steep for like a streaming subscription. So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on like what was the thinking behind the pricing of these. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, whoever.
I can jump in.
Maria?
Maria.
So, I mean, one of the things that we have to think about is how we bring the traditional funding model for studios into the NFT world, right? And so I know that a lot of NFT projects today are going for 0.08 ETH. 0.35 ETH is on the higher side, but we're really trying to bridge the gap between what traditional studios and how we can fund content, and then also like what the NFT world is comfortable with. And so we thought 0.35 ETH was a really happy medium where we could finance the rest of the show comfortably. And what's really exciting also is that a lot of most of the revenue goes to the creators versus in the traditional studio model where they get to keep that revenue. And so in order for us to create the first season of content, 0.35 ETH was sort of the price point where we needed to be at.
Makes sense. So it was just like a matter of like being able to fund production in the
That's a
end.
big part of it. I mean, if you look at the talent that we have behind the show, they all come from traditional Hollywood. Our animators came from Pixar, and worked on like a lot of incredible movies and TV shows. And so this was really a project that came from, okay, we're working with A-list talent and creators. And so we need to find a model that works for that. I think if for future projects, right, if we work with new creators or we work with, other types of talent, I don't think the funding model, like we don't need to price every project at 0.35 ETH, right? We have a lot of flexibility. And so I think the price point really will vary project to project. And we can test a lot of different, models, where we can have, 100,000 tokens priced at a very low amount. And so then that gets, everyone access to a show. So there's a lot of different models that we're playing with. For this show particularly, this is the framework that we thought would work best.
And I just want to use this opportunity to hat tip to the creators who, even with these price points, it was a huge leap of faith that they had to take, that one, they would get paid at all, and two, they would get paid anywhere close to what they might get paid if they went a traditional route. So they took the risk that they might not get paid at all, and best case would get paid less than what they would otherwise get paid because they're so confident that this is the future. So
yeah, and that's the piggybacking on that. That's one of the things I'm the most excited about. Like this started years ago in the mind of a Pixar animator, and now we sort of get to say to all future Pixar animators that it is possible to quit your job and come build in NFTs with the rest of this community. And it is not even, it's not like, if you have kids and a mortgage and like all that stuff, like it is maybe even better to come to NFTs. And I think that really helps unlock a lot of the Hollywood budgets, or just like,
and I will say,
I don't know, it seems like one of the things that Ethereum does is bring people in. I think it's going to start to happen.
And in those 13 hours, my phone's ringing off the hook with people, creators, like incredible artists, creators, writers, directors who were like, what are you doing? How can we talk? Let's talk. So we're super excited about the talent that sees it and wants to be part of that.
Lisa, I'd love to hear kind of the creator perspective, like the Hollywood perspective. Like, what about NFTs is so exciting, like to people around you?
Well, it's, Hollywood development is long, and there are a lot of opinions. Some of them are good and some of them are not helpful. But ultimately, there's a limited number of people who are cutting the checks, whose opinions, unfortunately, end up mattering more than the actual artist's opinion. And that's a challenge. And particularly when you're talking about trying to do something, I mean, this is a woman who smokes medical marijuana, legal in most places. Even just that kind of drug content was sort of untenable for a traditional outlets. And the idea that we don't have to change our creative, the idea that our amazing writers, directors, and animators can make the show they want to make, it's just the most exciting thing, because my biggest joy in the world is helping a creator bring their show to fruition. And through NFT, we were able to make the first 6 minutes are exactly how we want them to be. And then to the idea that the community the audience, as opposed to the studio, gets to have the input on the next parts of it, that's even more exciting. And that we don't have to make, normally we'll have to make an entire season and then we put it out. And so that even then we don't know, maybe somebody loves Mrs. Stoner, maybe they love Fifi. We'll get to know before we even start number 2. Who do they love? Who do we want to highlight more, bring in more? We have an amazing vision for our season, but we have flexibility on how we do it. And to have this sort of immediacy is very exciting. Very, very.
So Jonathan, on the NFT technical side, what avenues will the audience and viewers have of making that feedback or participating in general?
Yeah, so for like the most in-depth, I would say go to the Discord and check out the roadmap, because that's going to be a living document that we all create with the community. We've had a few things that already turned around in like 24 hours that were community suggestions. So on the decision-making side, I think where we all would love to get to is something like a DAO. Things we have considered are like a budget where the community gets to decide like what kind of merch are we going to do? Are we going to do merch or something else? Like here's a piece, like what can we do? We're also thinking about like decision making in terms of the content, like Lisa was getting at. One of the things that the artists brought up was there's an alleyway scene in the second, I think it's the second episode, and they want to put graffiti on that alleyway, and they want that to be people's avatars or their ETH addresses. Who knows, right? But the community can get to decide that. I think it's going to start off chain. I'd love it to move on chain, so 1 vote per NFT or quadratic voting, something like that. We'll get there together, I think.
Oh, that's so cool. Like, okay, like having feedback on episodes, but potentially having a part in episodes as well, like maybe helping, create some of the graffiti or something. I hadn't thought of that. That's really cool. Okay, I want to talk about the launch, which was yesterday. And yeah, like I said in the intro, like things went really crazy. I think like pieces sold out in under an hour, like 40 minutes or so. 7.5 million was raised, and it like really collapsed the Ethereum network, and gas prices went to like 1,000 Gwei. So that's like good and bad. It just like shows huge interest, but also maybe some technical issues. So yeah, would love to get kind of your reactions to how that all went down.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it obviously sucks. Like, everyone hated that. We all wish it hadn't happened. I think that it's hard to talk about all of the nuances of something so complicated like that without boring everybody. But I think part of it is important to know that like every one of us wished it was like able to. Like Mila's first thing was like, why do we even have to have gas fees? And we had sort of like explained how the blockchain works on that part of it. But the first thing we had on our team call after the sale was they were like, okay, so what we know is, it looks like wallets sort of fuzz their estimates and they try to dial in, and the ones that were under ran out of gas. And on Ethereum, that means that you lost all your money, and that really sucks. But okay, given that, like the standard, it seems like is not to give. Like we just sort of say like that's Ethereum, sorry everybody, and we don't want to do that either. So literally the first thing out of Ashton's mouth was like, what can we do that's above and beyond, right? Like, do we know who these people are? Yes, it's on the blockchain. We know all kinds of information about who it was and when they were and how much money it was. So we, obviously that conversation was 12 hours ago or something. So we don't have great answers. But the intention and the commitment is we're going to find them things to do that are incredible for those people. I'm spending a bunch of time running down the answers of like, okay, other founders of NFT projects, what did you do on this plan? And it's like basically the same. What was your code? And it's basically the same. We had one extra string concatenation in there, and that has nothing to do with the estimates. I talked to an advisor of ours at OpenSea. What are you thinking? And he said the same thing. It's like, no, this all looks normal, but holy crap, how many people? And so that I'm also getting in touch with MetaMask, and we're going to talk directly to them. So there's a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, I think what it looks like is just the scale of, I don't know if we've talked about this publicly, but the scale of the launch was possibly the biggest one that's ever happened. I know Alchemy.
How many people participated?
I don't know. I don't know that number off the top of my head. I know we had to 5x our Alchemy SDK. I don't know if that matters for this audience, but so Alchemy is a service provider that lets you talk to the blockchain. They 5x'd our enterprise plan. Fission set up custom caching for us. I know Fission was getting 3,500 views on the assets every minute, hours after we launched, which doesn't include OpenSea because OpenSea has their own cache. It's just incredible scale. And I also think we brought a lot of new people into Ethereum, which is amazing. And part of the thing I was really excited about, but those people are not used to, some of the collectors doubled their gas limit for no reason. Just that's what they do every time because they've had this happen before. And they, every other drop that day had the same thing happen. But what it's looking like is that a lot of those new people, and there were so many of them, got caught by this MetaMask thing. And just to sum it up, I think our commitment is to do a really freaking good job and like do right by them because they were early believers in us, and that's really important.
But I mean, how tough? Like you don't really know exactly what happened or what went wrong. So you're like on one hand, kind of trying to figure that out, and then also trying to figure out how to compensate those people who lost a bunch of money in transaction fees. And for context, it was around $780,000 lost in gas fees. So people who paid transaction costs hoping to get an NFT, but the transaction wasn't approved, and so they lost that in fees. And right, the question is like, was it something about the smart contract, or was it something that was wrong with MetaMask? And I guess like that question is still TBD. I
mean, I'm biased because I wrote the contract, but there's nothing even non-deterministic about the code. There's no branching, there's no if statements, sometimes it's less gas, sometimes it's more. What it's looking like is it's down to like, what was the balance increment? How many opcodes did Ethereum need to use to move the amount of balance? We looked at blocks that had literally the same block, same gas limit, and some succeeded and some didn't. And it comes down to just tiny little, like 1,000 gwei, like 2 opcodes. So I think we pretty much know that it's just wallet estimates. And that's why I'm trying so hard to get in touch with MetaMask themselves, because I think we should be leading the way in terms of, what is the standard for all NFT projects to do this? And we should probably work with MetaMask on that because they're the biggest wallet.
Yeah, and John knows that 2 things. One, that a lot of people sent me messages yesterday with their opinions of what we could have done differently, and then they would follow up 5 minutes later and be like, actually, nope, you did that. That's not right. So I think like a lot of people went through the circle of like, okay, we have feedback for you. Wait, actually, we checked your code and it was okay. Wait, actually, this is this is an issue with like the space at large. And then John also knows that I tried to send a transaction today, and I had the same problem happen to me several times where it was an error on my end, but not during the launch. Same issue happened, and John's like, can we tell people that you made this same mistake to show people? That I'm like, yeah. And I think the other learning lesson is how far we all have to come as a whole space on the education front, because we saw in the Discord and on Twitter, there were some people who lost a lot of money in fees, and they were like, yep, but like kind of the name of the game. Like I upped my gas because like I really wanted to get a stoner cat. And like when you do that, you know that you're at the risk of losing that. And there were other people, and this is, I feel terribly. We all feel terribly. And it was like their first time trying to buy an NFT, which was part of the whole thesis in the beginning, is we were trying to bring new people into the space. And that's where like I will take responsibility for on the education front. Like we should have explained like, okay, if you submit a transaction, it doesn't go through, you lose your gas. And that's like a very foreign concept, I think, if you're new to crypto. Yeah. That's like, wait, why? Like, it didn't work. But that's how it works. So we just have a long way to go on the education front. Us as a team, but also like all of us as a space. And that's why your podcast is great. So hopefully someone's listening. And now you know you can lose your transaction fee if your transaction doesn't go through.
Yeah. Lisa, how was that experience like from kind of like, I don't know, seeing how people in crypto react? Like it can be kind of pretty scary to look in the Discord and Twitter and like see everyone's kind of reactions. I'd imagine it's kind of pretty different from just like non-crypto world and projects. Or no?
I mean, yes and no. I certainly think that one of the big differences is kind of the rapidity with which, like how quickly it all comes through. But I mean, we are used to, we're used to negative feedback on Hollywood as well. We're used to hearing people who don't like things, whether it's warranted or not. We're used to hearing that. So it's certainly something that we care about, and something that it's been our very, very biggest concern, and our top priority. But yeah, it is the entire launch for me as a non crypto native was very, very foreign and really interesting.
Like, what was kind of your reaction? Like, what did you think about it?
Well, I mean, I'm going to tell you guys the actual truth. I couldn't watch it. I literally had to. I was on set for another project, and I walked away from my phone for a few minutes to just, like, I went and got a sparkling water and drank a sparkling water, and then went and came back a couple minutes later and went, everything, how's it going? So that I could get in. But everybody, I think the crypto side of people were, staring at screens, and I was having a wonderful wait and see reaction.
Yeah, we had a Zoom.
Okay, that's pretty healthy.
We had a Zoom room going so we could all be together. But, like, we love each other. And Lisa calls in, like, after we had all been out for 15 minutes, and she's like, "Just tell me how it's going. I just need to."
And these people are, cool as a cucumber. It's amazing.
But no, we were all sweating through our shirts for sure.
Oh my God, how nerve-wracking. And okay, and then now, just like want to know more about like the getting all these like huge names. Well, I mean, Vitalik, I guess, like I'd love to kind of hear how that went down, like approaching him, and like why, because it's not very like, it's not something that like I would have expected of him, I guess, to be kind of the voice of a cartoon character. Like, it's not something that he has done before or like done anything like this. So how was that? Like, how did you get him or like get him interested in this?
He's a man of many talents. As Lisa mentioned, I was at Ashton and Mila's home when I first learned about stoner cats, and I was actually there because we were going to be meeting with Vitalik about something completely unrelated. And when I first met Lisa and we're first in this call and we're first talking about the possibility of using NFTs for this funding mechanism, Mila, I think, was very perceptive and right, where she's like, if we're going to do this, we have to be like native to the community. And there's another cat who we haven't cast yet. And we have to cast that cat with someone from the community. So it looks like we're all in this together. And I was like, well, Vitalik is showing up at your house in an hour, and I can't really think of any better cat than him. And that was kind of how it happened. So we're having our meeting, and Mila and her natural spunky self like runs outside, and it's like, Vitalik, but she says it in a much more beautiful, like Russian correct way, Vitalik. Like, we need you to be a cat. And he was like, yeah, let's do it.
She said it like in Russian?
She pronounced his name correctly, I'm assuming.
Oh, okay.
And Russian.
And he just like immediately said okay?
He immediately said okay. I'm like, are you sure you know what you're saying okay to? And so
that's amazing.
Made sure he knew what he was saying okay to. And he likes to laugh and have a good time like anyone else. So he's a great sport.
Yeah.
And we feel really lucky to work with him on it.
And it was our
Part of it is
creative
also
team.
like, no, go ahead.
I was saying our creative team, when he came to record, we recorded, because of COVID, we recorded everybody remotely. And they also didn't know, like, was he going to be able to like act? So it was,
right.
It was, I think, really fun for the whole team to be like, what's this going to be? And honestly, he's fantastic.
Oh my God, I can't wait.
Amazing.
To see it. So cool. And that's where the whole kind of like Vitalik and Ashton Kutcher's and Mila Kunis kitchen happened, right? Like that tweet that went kind of viral? That was like after he said yes to
way after,
doing Stoner
like, a
Cash?
month or two after, and that.
Oh, it wasn't like that same meeting.
No, he was like part of the team already at that point. I think that comes to the end point, which is this whole process has taught us how far we have to go on the education front. So as John alluded to, like in an early meeting we were talking about how do we minimize gas fees for users like 3 months ago when this all started. And Mila asked, can't we call Ethereum and have them waive the fees? So we're like, oh, really valid question. But yeah, we all laughed. So we're like, oh my gosh, we have such a far way to go in education. And there were many of those points that happened throughout the course of like trying to do this thing. So we were like, okay, we need to explain crypto in words that non-crypto people understand. And that's where the Crypto with Kunis education series came from.
I love it.
And then when
So
they
cool.
like happened to be in the same place, and we're like, this has to happen. So hopefully there's more of that coming also. And that's like an ancillary gift to the community that we can give back and just like help educate people who are new to the space.
This might get a bit in the weeds, but like, did you consider using layer 2 to reduce gas fees?
Yeah, we did. I use layer 2 like most weeks. I like layer 2. I'm a developer on Ethereum, and all of the warnings and errors and like MetaMask throwing up like don't do this thing, someone is probably stealing your money, is just the experience is not there yet. And when we were going through the process of like, okay, we have so many new people, how are we going to explain to them not just Ethereum and wallets and get them a wallet and get it out of Coinbase, because it's probably going to Coinbase first, and teach them about Coinbase jail, and then they transfer it to a wallet, and then we have to teach them about what alternate blockchains are and bridges, and it just starts adding up so fast that it seemed like it wasn't worth it. And we would also, people were very sensitive about like amounts of gas from the very beginning, and so paying gas to get into a side chain or another chain, and then paying gas to get their NFTs out where the secondary market's going to be. Just like the net of them seemed like it's not the way to go for this project. But if we were thinking about something that had a very high transaction volume on the secondary market, we might consider doing that.
Right. Do you think like an unfortunate lesson of this is that maybe Ethereum and NFTs like isn't quite ready for prime time? Like, could that be would you say that's a takeaway?
I think it's
Go ahead.
I think it's ready from a demand side. And like that's where like yesterday I kept saying the Yogi Bears and like it's so crowded no one goes there anymore. Like people want it. So like that's pretty cool. So like these are all I see this like I am not making excuses. We genuinely feel horribly, but like it's a good problem to have for the whole space that so many people want to use this thing. And it's like, okay, yeah, like now we all have to get our shit together and fix it. Sorry, Mario, go ahead.
No, that's pretty much exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, it seems like NFTs, in terms of product market fit or whatever you want to call it, is super ready for prime time. And we really need to get optimism up on Ethereum. We need to get shards up on Ethereum, and they've been working on it. The Ethereum Foundation is incredible, but I think that's one of the lessons, and I think the NFT community probably needs to experiment with different drop models or not drops at all. Can we introduce some randomness ahead of time, so that by the time you're actually buying, there is no rush. It's already been decided who gets how many. There's a lot of interesting, I don't know, call it game theory or economics theory things that could be introduced. I think there's a ton of innovation to be done on top of, the basic drop idea. And I think this is, since this was maybe the biggest one ever, I think it's just a giant spotlight of like, yeah, this doesn't scale yet. And does Ethereum get there first, the platform layer, or do apps get there first with psychology and game theory and things like that?
That's an interesting thought. Like, it seems like apps are front running Ethereum on just like being there. It's like apps are there, like people want to use these things, but Ethereum still has these scaling issues to figure out, to work through.
Yeah, and I think to their credit, or to be fair to them, they've been thinking about 15959 forever. They've been thinking about optimism forever. They've been thinking about sharding forever. Proof of stake is coming after years of work, and I think they just really care about getting it right, and so they're going to be a little slow. But yeah, I think that's part of the reason I like building on Ethereum, because I know, they're the security layer, right? If they accidentally take Ethereum down, we're all screwed, and I don't have that worry, which is pretty rare.
Totally. Okay, and then lessons for just like the broader creative community, or just like creators in general. What would you say? Like your takeaways were from this?
Well, I think one of the big takeaways is that there was significant demand for this project and for sort of this new model of creating content this way, and being able to see, this show come to life, and being able to participate in participate in the creative process in some way. So I think my big takeaway is, the theory works, and we should continue to pursue it and figure out what the right approach and the right model is. But I love the idea that there are other folks out there who are going to see what we did with Stoner Cats and try to replicate it in some way. There are other creators out there who now can have an idea, and they have a story that they want to tell, and they can use this model themselves and create the content that they want to create. And then fans and audience members can fund that content and can participate in it in some way.
I also don't know if this is.
I'm going to be.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay. I know I'm going to be telling everyone Ash's story. Ash is the Pixar animator who came up with this and grinded for years and found another a team of animators, and found Lisa's team. And then I'm pretty sure animators don't get, production credits and like ownership and stuff. Like a friend of mine, Dan, said it doesn't sound like making things a little bit better. It sounds like making things impossible possible. And that's really, really exciting. So I would tell them Ash's story. I would say, get out of your big company, and if you got a good enough idea and something can be, the first ever on Ethereum, or a really interesting experiment, or something that's aligned with the ethos, bring it in NFTs. It could be not just great for the NFT community, but great for you. It could get content out there. It could get your story told. It's good for them financially. There's just so many reasons why the best and brightest should come to Ethereum.
Very cool.
I was going to add, I don't know if this is contrarian, but I think we are, as a human, zooming out from crypto, as humanity, in a phase where the power is with the people. So, you're seeing this in politics, you're seeing this with social movements, you're seeing it now with the power is going to the people. What content do you guys want to see? We'll do it. But in the case of Stoner Cats, the learning lesson for people that are going to launch projects is the community is so effing important. We feel it was just an instant shift of we were working on Zoom calls to we work for you now. Anything, we are on our knees for these people. Which is that's the point. That's deserves. That's they bought the things, and and it was just such an instant power shift in a positive way. I feel on the team where it's oh my God, someone in the Discord said this. Oh my God, someone said this. So I don't think you can be successful if community isn't really core to what you're doing, and you treat that as a first class citizen. And we were by no means perfect. But that was a big learning lesson for me.
I think that's such a great point. You go from doing something top down to just listening to the community first, and just building with them, and have that instant shift once the token is there, or once on NFTs, they're this kind of economic incentive or means that just instantly changes everything. It's just been such a kind of powerful tool in general, I think, for communities, for organizing people, and like I said, I was saying before, it's been so interesting to see how this is now bringing artists into crypto, where it was a space that was 100% focused on speculation and just financial applications. Now seeing it how this new paradigm, or like these new kind of economic primitives work in like the creative environment is just like fascinating. So it's really cool. Like you're kind of at the forefront of this kind of new way of making stuff. So it's cool to see. Okay, and then what's next? Like first episode coming up. Like when is that happening? Can you give us like any spoilers on like what that's about? Just like what should the community and like audience expect?
Well, tomorrow at 2 p.m. Pacific is when people can view the first 6 minutes. And spoiler, I mean, there's a lot. You get a premise. So their first few minutes are a lot of meeting the cats, getting their personalities, getting the dynamics, meeting Mrs. Stoner. It's you get to meet Lord Capsington, which is pretty awesome. So that's on the creative front, our very first thing. And then we're already, I mean, all we're talking about right now on my side, a lot of what we're talking about right now is, all right, what can we engage the community in on the creative side? So we're putting together all of those options right now so that we can start our first academy meeting, because we like puns, to get everybody together and talk about what's next.
So have you only shot kind of this one episode?
We have, but we have all the character designs and stories ready to go. And with this, our first episode was Ash, Sarah, and Chris doing this themselves, Ash hand drawing everything by himself. So like old school, old school.
Wow.
Animation. He could do 10 seconds a day. So that's how long it took. And so we're very excited to get him some help so that so his poor hand can recover, frankly.
Amazing. Very cool. Great. Well, I mean, this has been such an interesting conversation. I love kind of hearing the backstage of how this all happened. Yeah, I don't know, any kind of last thoughts, like things that you're most looking forward to, or just like, I don't know, comments on like one of the NFTs going for 77 ETH, so like over $100,000 in the secondary market.
I mean, to me, that just
said looks like
there was a lot of the early critiques were like, this is so expensive. Everyone's, they just hated the price. Everyone's gonna lose their money, and all that. That was the main story. And to me, it seems like it sounds like an early believer being like incredibly highly rewarded for believing in this type of content production and like changing, like basically signing up for our mission, and like it's really amazing that they made that much money from it. That's incredible. And we told Ash that too, the animator, and he was like, "What do you mean? That's more than I've made like all of my art sales. Like that might pay for my art school." It's just an incredible feeling.
Just goosebumps.
And Jane Fonda's super excited about that. Super excited.
Yeah, she's a hot commodity on OpenSea. We need to get her on OpenSea.
Yeah. She's the coolest.
Oh my God, is she like, I don't know, like testing all this stuff out? Like experimenting with MetaMask
We'll see.
Jane Fonda on MetaMask, like that'd be amazing.
It'd be amazing.
All right, well, amazing stuff. Really great chatting with you. Like super interesting what you're doing, and yeah, I can't wait to see the Vitalik Stoner Cat make his first appearance.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
this was great.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Of course.